E. I remember that moment as if it happened yesterday, the weight of the air around me, the unsettling silence that followed his departure. When he walked out the door for the business trip he had been planning for months, I didn't realize how much it would affect me. I thought I'd be fine. I had always been independent. But that was before the loneliness started to creep in, slowly at first, until it consumed every part of me. What was supposed to be a few days of space quickly turned into something else. I felt empty. There's no other way to put it. And I realized something. That emptiness wasn't just about missing him. It was something deeper, something more primal. I needed more. But more of what? I wasn't sure at first. Then I found myself asking, how far was I willing to go to fill this void? I tried to distract myself. I immersed myself in the things I usually enjoyed: reading, painting, even going out with friends. But nothing seemed to help. Every time I got home, I was left staring at an empty bed, feeling the silence press in on me. I couldn't ignore the craving anymore. It was the kind of craving that had been quietly building up over the years, but it was never really something I had to confront. Until now. I won't lie. I knew exactly what I needed. I was craving something I wasn't getting, something he couldn't provide while he was away. I needed touch. I needed connection. But more than that, I needed desire. And that's when it hit me. The truth that had been buried deep down. I wanted more. I needed more. And I wasn't sure if I could wait any longer for it. But the question was, what would I do about it? It wasn't that I didn't love him. God, I did. I still do. But love is complicated, isn't it? It's not always enough. I had been with him for years, and while I cherished the stability, the comfort we had built, the emotional connection that bound us together, there was something missing, something deep inside me that I couldn't ignore. I tried to convince myself it was just a phase, that this craving was something temporary, but deep down I knew it wasn't. It was more than that. It was a need I couldn't push away. And it wasn't just about intimacy. It was about feeling alive again, about feeling wanted. So, one night, after another long day of pretending everything was fine, I decided I couldn't keep this to myself anymore. I had to ask him. But how? How do you ask your husband for something you're not even sure you can get? How do you open that door when it feels like everything could come crashing down if you do? But I couldn't keep lying to myself. I needed to be honest, even if it meant risking everything. What I was about to ask him would change everything. I knew it. And yet, I couldn't bring myself to stop. Because the truth was, I wasn't sure what would happen if I didn't ask. I wasn't sure how much longer I could keep pretending. The night he finally called, I could hear the fatigue in his voice. He was halfway across the world, and I could tell he missed me just as much as I missed him. But it wasn't enough. Not anymore. I couldn't pretend that a phone call could fill the void I was feeling. He asked how I was, and I gave him the usual response. Everything was fine, nothing to worry about. But that night, I knew I couldn't keep lying. I need to ask you something, I said, my voice shaking slightly. The words felt foreign, like they weren't supposed to come from me. He paused, sensing the tension in my voice. What is it? He asked. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing thoughts. I've been thinking. While you're away, I've been feeling lonely. More than I thought I would. I need something more. Something I can't get from you right now. His silence on the other end of the phone felt like an eternity. Was he angry? Surprised? I couldn't tell, but I knew I had to continue. I couldn't back down now. What are you saying? His voice had a hint of confusion. It was clear he didn't understand. How could he? I had never said anything like this before. I'm saying, I need more than just words. I need something real, something physical, something passionate. The words left my lips before I could stop them. And for a moment, I regretted them. What if I had gone too far? What if I had pushed him away for good? But it was too late to take it back. There was a long pause, and I could hear his breath on the other end of the line. He was processing it, I could tell. I could feel him trying to understand what I was asking of him. "You're telling me you need more intimacy? From me?" he finally asked. His voice was tentative, almost uncertain. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "Yes, I need to feel like I'm alive again. I need more than just the routine, the day-to-day stuff we've gotten used to." "I don't know if I can give you what you need," he said, his voice quieter now. It stung, but I understood. I had known this would be difficult, but the truth was, I couldn't ignore my needs anymore. I couldn't pretend I wasn't craving something different, something more. I tried to hold back the frustration building up inside me. "I'm not asking for something unreasonable. I'm asking you to see me, to really see me. I need to feel desired again." There was another silence, but this time it wasn't as long. He exhaled deeply, and I could almost feel the weight of his decision. "What do you want me to do?" he finally asked. His voice was tinged with both confusion and the faintest trace of guilt. My heart raced. I didn't know what to expect from him. I wasn't sure what I wanted anymore, but I knew I had to have this conversation or I would regret it forever. "I don't know," I whispered, the vulnerability in my voice unmistakable. I need to feel wanted. I need to feel alive again. I need you." His response caught me off guard, but it was exactly what I had been waiting for. It was the turning point. I didn't know what this conversation would mean for us, but I knew we were about to step into uncharted territory. And there was no going back. After that, everything changed. The conversation didn't go the way I expected, but in a way, that was a relief. It was a turning point. We spent hours talking about what I needed, about what we both needed. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel alone. I didn't feel like I was asking for something impossible. He was listening, really listening. It didn't fix everything, of course. We still had a long way to go, but something shifted. Something deep inside me clicked. And for the first time in weeks, I felt like I wasn't just existing. I was living. And that feeling? It was everything. But would this change last? Could I trust him to meet my needs, or had I just opened a door that couldn't be closed? The answer wasn't clear yet. But one thing was for sure. I had taken control of my own happiness, and that was something I would never let go of again. Days passed, but I couldn't stop replaying our conversation over and over again in my mind. I had asked for something that could change the very foundation of our relationship. But part of me felt relief, like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I no longer had to carry this secret desire alone. He knew what I needed. I knew what I needed. And the silence that once felt suffocating now felt like an invitation to rebuild, to rediscover something we'd both been missing. But as much as I wanted to believe that this was the turning point, I knew it wouldn't be easy. There were too many layers of history between us, too many unspoken feelings, and too much to unpack. The question was, could we actually find our way back to each other? Could he give me what I was asking for, or would we end up drifting further apart? It wasn't just about physical connection. It was deeper than that. It was about feeling seen again, feeling wanted again. But would I find it in him, or would I have to go elsewhere to get it? The answer was out of my hands now, and it terrified me. What if this was a mistake? What if asking for this was the beginning of the end? A few days after the phone call, he returned. He had come home earlier than expected. And when I saw him standing at the door, I was flooded with emotions. Relief, excitement, and yes, a touch of fear. We hadn't discussed the conversation we'd had over the phone. But I felt like there was something hanging in the air between us, a tension that had never existed before. "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual, even though my heart was pounding in my chest. "Hey," he replied, his gaze lingering on me. He didn't hug me right away, didn't kiss me like he usually did. Instead, he just stood there, watching me, as though he was trying to gauge something inside me. How was the trip? I asked, knowing it was a safe, neutral question. But deep down, I couldn't help but feel that everything had changed between us. It was fine, he said, his eyes still fixed on me. He seemed hesitant, unsure of where to begin. I could tell he was processing everything. Listen, about what we talked about, he started, and my heart skipped a beat. Here it was, the moment of truth. Would he open up about what was really on his mind? Or would he bury it beneath layers of routine and avoid the conversation that was so desperately needed? I held my breath, waiting for his next words. Would this moment define the future of our marriage, or would we simply return to the way things were before? I've been thinking a lot about what you said, he continued, his voice low and serious. I don't want you to feel neglected or unimportant. I understand why you feel the way you do. I just didn't know how to address it. I felt a mix of relief and disappointment. He understood my feelings, but I wasn't sure he knew how to truly meet my needs. Could he change? Could we both evolve in the way our relationship needed? There was no quick fix, there was no perfect solution, but we were both in this together. I appreciate that you're thinking about it, I said softly. I just need to know that we're moving forward, that we're not just going to keep going through the motions. We need more than that. He stepped closer, his hands reaching out for mine. It was a gesture I hadn't expected, one that caught me off guard. I want to make things right, he said, his eyes searching mine. I don't know if I can give you everything you need, but I'm willing to try. I want to make you feel desired again. The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that we could fix everything, that this conversation was the first step toward rekindling what we had lost. But deep down, I knew that it wasn't that simple. The path to rediscovery was going to be long and complicated. And neither of us had all the answers. Could we really go back to the way things were before? Could we rebuild the passion, the connection we once had? Or was this simply a new chapter in a story that would never be the same again? I didn't know, but I was willing to try. I had to try, because without trying, I would lose everything. That night, we went to bed in silence. There were no passionate words exchanged, no promises made. But there was something between us, a glimmer of hope. Something had shifted, and that was all I could ask for. As I lay there, staring at the ceiling, I couldn't help but wonder what would happen next. Would this be the beginning of something beautiful, or would it fizzle out like everything else? Over the next few days, we talked more. Not just about our physical needs, but about our emotional connection. We shared things we hadn't said in years. I learned things about him I had never known. And he learned things about me that I had kept hidden. We both realized how much we had taken each other for granted, how much we had allowed the monotony of life to overshadow the passion and desire we had once shared. But could these revelations really change the course of our marriage? Could honesty and vulnerability heal the cracks in our relationship, or was this simply a brief spark in an otherwise dying flame? A few weeks later, things felt different. Not perfect, but different in a way I hadn't expected. We were talking more openly, being more affectionate. We weren't exactly where we wanted to be, but we were moving in the right direction. The question remained, though, how far could we go? How long would it take to truly rebuild the connection we had lost? I didn't know, but I was determined to find out.